G'day. Welcome to Aussievision. My name is Craig and I am joined by our UK correspondent. It is Laura. How are you this morning?
G'day, Craig. I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm going pretty well. And I'm feeling good about what we just witnessed. We're here to talk about Latvia, Supernova. It isn't perhaps not the national final that's on everyone's radar this morning or this evening in the UK, but I think they did pretty well. They've got a winner. It is Dons with Hollow, which I think was probably widely expected for people, but I think he did well tonight. Laura, what did you think of Dons?
Look, I thought his performance tonight was really, really solid, and a massive glow up from the semi-final. He had a bit of an outfit change. He wasn't just wearing just what he picked up as he headed out the door. He had a bit more of a blue suit-like outfit going on. It was a bit more polished. There were less props. It was sort of more just him standing on the stage with lots of smoke effects and mood lighting. And I thought it created the atmosphere really, really well.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's not reinventing the wheel, this song. It's sort of going for a well-tested genre, but he did it well. There's a theme there, like he's talking about, feeling like selling out and feeling like he's not living up to his potential, I don't know, in life or as an artist. And I feel like the staging sort of conveyed that mood. He's got that boiler suit on, which sort of, brings up that imagery of like, I'm a drone, I'm just working for the man. And then he has this real fragility about him. He's like quite as a bloke on stage, he seems quite broken and reserved, and that really conveys the mood of the song. So I'm like, this is not, as I say, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's not anything majorly new here, but he does it really well, and I'm convinced by it, and I'm even moved by it. I think the first time I heard it, great voice too. Um, there were obviously 10 acts tonight, and Don's was, well, the wild favorite to win. There were a couple of others that were on people's radar in the lead up to Supernova. One of those was the cat song, the kitty, kitty, catty, kitty, ooh one. And the other one was Kur, question mark. So I guess that makes it Kur. So, Laura, Kur came in second, and the cat song came in slightly behind in third place. So, with those, they were clearly the next two behind them. What did you think of the cat song and Kur?
Look, the cat song is a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine and probably my favorite actually going into the whole Supernova show. I know songs of Don's genre aren't usually to my personal taste, but I thought Don's definitely sold it well. But we've talked about Don's. We're here to talk about the cat song. It was just so iconic. It was literally, I want to say it was televote catnip, but then it looked like it was coming third in the Latvian televote. So do with that information what you will, but nonetheless, it sounded very good and it looked very good as well.
She'd done it up to the next level tonight. It reminds me a little bit of that polyester song that everyone was going nuts for a couple of years ago. It's got that same sort of like quirky, but also not, it's quite quiet vibe to it. My worry with this one, I did enjoy it, it's very fun, but my worry is that in a national final lineup, it's the sort of thing which stands out. And then you take it to the Eurovision context in May, where there's like 40 songs, and I don't know if it has the staying power. Like it just doesn't seem as quirky and memorable when you put it in that bigger field. And so I don't know if I would have been super happy if it had won, but I'm very glad it's there, and I'd be glad to see Katrina again in the future if she wants to come back. What about Kura? That's the duet with the man and the woman sitting at the piano. They sort of switch places, and the bloke has the worst haircut I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, his haircut certainly was interesting with all the different colors and stripes everywhere. But I thought it was a lovely little song, although it reminds me of if you've seen Esty Lau, things like Minimal Wind and Elizabeth Tiffany
Yeah.
and Annette and Freddie, like the ones that are just really nice, sort of easy listening, very, very good quality of musicianship type
Mhm.
songs. But unfortunately, they don't really have that same sort of competitive song competition um, elements about them. So
Yeah. I saw a lot of
That's
hype for this one on Twitter, and I sort of get it because like the staging in particular, I think is really cool. Like the way that they switch places, and there's this real sense of connection between the two of them, and I'm really sold on that. But I just couldn't escape the feeling that it's the sort of thing which people on Twitter get excited about before the national final, and then once it's picked, they just forget about it. So like it's a nice song, it's a good song. I enjoyed it. It does have stickability for me. That sort of da 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 does stick in my head, but I just don't know if it would have been very competitive if they picked it.
yeah,
So I
absolutely.
do think they made the right choice at the end of the day. Did you have any other thoughts on those songs or any other songs, Laura?
Look, I thought they made the right choice at the end of the day. I think the results kind of landed, I think, how I expected them to going into the show.
Yeah,
Um, Back to core, I
there's
do think the duo is quite young. They have a bright future ahead of them. I think they resonated really well with perhaps a younger audience, but they also harken back to that sort of like 60s-ish Beatles almost sort of
yeah,
vibe. So
I can see that.
they
It's
had
very
that
sort
going
of
for them.
chill, and I liked that. I'm curious to see what they can bring. Like, I'm sure we'll see them back. Latvia is that sort of place, and I'm curious to see what they show up with in a couple of years because I think what their next song might be the one that's ready for Eurovision. I don't know if this one was just yet. But let's talk briefly about the show itself. It was a good show, and I think the main thing that stood out for me was the interval acts. We got some surprise appearances both from Estonia's 2023 representative Alika singing her song Bridges, and then slightly even more unexpectedly is Lithuanian national final regular Gabriela Svigelis. Laura, what did you think of them? Was it good to see them?
It was really great to see them. I mean, it was fantastic to see Alika. I kind of wish seen Southern Lights, but my understanding is they do have other commitments and engagements that they're busy with at the moment. So all the best to them with that. But yeah, it was fantastic to see Alika vocally live. She knocked it out of the park. And well, I thought that Gabriella Spagelis was a bit of a random
It was.
inclusion, all things considered. I do like that there's the representation from Lithuania and Estonia with Alika, and that Latvia is inviting their Baltic neighbours to the party.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I might. It's nice, and I think you do also get this when you watch SD Lau and whatever they're calling the Lithuanian one this year. Uh, when you watch those, there's a sense of like the Baltics sort of working together, and they feature each other's artists, and they come and perform. I agree, it was a shame not to see Southern Lights because I think that was probably one of the best things that Latvia's sent in a good few years. And so I would have liked to see them, but as you say, they were busy. So I think Alika and Gabrielis did a great job, and it was good representation to try and build those ties even further between the Baltic countries at Eurovision. One last question before we go, Laura. We've got Dons, we've got Hollow. It's been, I think, 8 years this year since Latvia last made the final at Eurovision. Is Dons going to be the one to make that streak, and why or why not?
Ooh, look, I think Dons is definitely their best shot at qualifying for the final again. I think it's very accessible to a casual viewer. Yes, it's a song that is not exactly reinventing the wheel, but I don't think it has to. I think it's nice that there's that familiarity that listener who's watching the show or listening for the first time can just grab onto and remember.
Yeah.
However, I think it depends on how the rest of the field shapes up. There's a lot we don't know, but I suppose what we do know is that there's a lot of countries in Latvia's semi-final that have struggled to qualify in the past. So maybe there's hope for Latvia. Maybe they can turn their fortunes around and be one of the lucky countries this year to get through the semis.
I had the same thought. I'm like, if they seem set up to succeed this year, they're in the better semi-final to be in. I think there's not a great deal of competition in their lane, like the Sliman, but they're not going to encounter him until the final. And I think the ceiling for this is something like a Tamara Tadevska, like a sort of proud moment where it's like this good, classy ballad and everyone sort of agrees that it's good and votes for it. I worry that in this new age of televote only semi-finals, it might struggle. But I think that can probably be rectified depending on where it is in the running order. It's been drawn second half. If this is on second last, third last, or something on the night, I think it will be something that sticks in people's heads and they might give it enough vote to get it out of the semi-final. Southern Lights only just missed out. I feel like this is about the same level of competitive as I think Southern Lights was last year.
Quite possibly, yes. Although, interestingly enough, a song comparison that I think about when I hear Hollow is Switzerland's entry from last year, Water
Mhm.
Gun. I reckon it's a similar sort of
Mhm.
level of song, similar sort of vibe. And I reckon it's capable of producing a similar sort of result if it all
Yep.
goes well on the night.
Like at the end of the day, qualifying is Latvia's winning at this point, I think. And if they could get a result akin to what Remo did last year, or what Tamara did a couple of years ago, because if they make the final, I think the juries are there to give it some points. But if they can do similarly to that, I think that would be a great victory for Latvia. And so I'm hopeful that this will be the year that they finally get out of the semi-final. They seem set up for it. Uh,
Absolutely. All my fingers are crossed for them. I really, really hope they get out of the semis this year.
Crossing our fingers from both ends, both Australia and the UK here this morning. Thank you so much for joining me, Laura. It's been great to watch Supernova you this morning, and we wish all the best to Dons. Thanks, Laura. We'll catch you later.
Thank you very much. It's
Cheers,
been a
guys.
pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.